I'm a grain trader and grain processor. I'm a founder member of the Grain Council of Uganda. I'm currently Executive Director. I wanted to give you just a little, as a starter, to give you a little bit of historical perspective. Pre-1986, the grain sector at that time was known in Uganda as a provider of food. Beans, maize for roasting, and for making ugali for the homestead. The production of grain at that time was slightly under 2 million tons. The bulk of grain marketing at that time was done through the now defunct Produce Marketing Board, or PMB. Total grain storage capacity in the country was in the area of about 60,000 tons in government stores in places like Tororo, like Masese in Jinja, Nalukolongo here, which eventually became World Food Program, Chazanga, Kasese, and I think there was one in Gulu. Today, post-86, this sector was completely opened up and liberalized. The sector eventually ramped up production, and as we speak right now, the production of grain is in excess of 7 million tons, with maize. Usually we use maize as the benchmark, over 5 million tons as we speak. Anyway, total storage capacity has risen to over 800,000 metric tons. Private storage in silos and warehouses spread all over the country. If you remember last time, prior 86, the storage was only in the urban areas, and the bulk of it was around Kampala, the processing and storage capacity, because of security and the fact that the services that were required, banking services, the road network and so on, were located around those urban centers. As we speak today, the processing capacity that we are talking about is spread all over the grain producing countries, districts of Uganda. Total processing capacity, primary processing, when I say processing here, I'm talking about primary processing, the capacity to clean, dry, grade and bag, is in excess of 10,000 metric tons per day. That is in 24 hours. We produce a surplus every year, even in the bad years. Uganda always has a surplus that it sells beyond our borders, especially in Kenya, South Sudan, and the Eastern DRC. So we are producing that much more as a result of the opening up of this. Of course, there is a lot happening in the region: population growth, increased demand for foodstuffs, the refugee situation around the East and Central African area, all that providing opportunities for this growth. Grain contributes significantly towards the balancing of our regional trade, the trade balance with our neighboring countries. It's no longer left to coffee. It's amazing how significant maize alone contributes towards, especially our balance of trade with Kenya, for example. These are some of the things that have taken place. Lowering of the interest rates on agricultural and agro-processing financing with schemes like the Agricultural Credit Facility. These ones have been mentioned, have driven this growth, especially the growth not only of agro-farming, grain farming, but also in the setting up of grain processing infrastructure across the country. The provision of interest-free loans for large-scale commercial grain agriculture. These are interest-free loans. The scheme was launched towards the end of last year. It is run in government commercial banks. Large-scale commercial farmers borrow bank money, but government provides the interest. They are payable over 6 years, and the interest rate is 0. We've had support from initiatives like GROW and Invite, and of course these are very important for us when you hear about the surging interest rates that have been mentioned by Patrick and UDB. We find that initiatives like Grow and Invite and others like it have come in very handy in supporting agro processing and especially grain agriculture. Future, we need as a country, and this is a cry that we have been issuing over the last few years, we need to curb the export of raw grain from Uganda. Grain that has not met any primary processing whatsoever. It leaves the lowest value in the value chain when traders roam the country and buy maize at the farmers, or beans or soybean at the farms at 300 shillings or 400 shillings and take it to semi-process it and warehouse it beyond our borders. The loss of value can best be illustrated if I just give you an example today. At the beginning of this season, maize was at around 750 shillings in the village. Today, maize is buying at 1,540, and that is before July when the new season comes in. And the country hardly has any grain to trade right now. This grain has been taken, especially across our eastern border, into Kenya, and it's being warehoused. That's where that value is accruing. Grain warehousing is probably the biggest value center in the grain's value chain, and it ought to happen in the surplus producing country, not beyond its borders. But when you open up the way we have, you find that this grain, we've been taken advantage of, and this grain is warehoused, and that value accrues there. So that is a cry we always make, and we hope that it will be heard. We do hope that the coming on board of the initiative that is being championed by UDC and NSSF will enable us to, as collectively, issue a stronger message towards the eradication of this practice. We also urge government, we hear some activity taking place towards the development of standard gauge and probably even improving our waterways across Lake Victoria. Transport, especially for grain, which is a very low value and bulk crop, will be, its marketing would be very well supported by the development of standard gauge to enable grain to reach prime markets, premium markets like Nairobi, like northern Tanzania, hopefully into Rwanda and Burundi at probably 30 or even 40 shillings cheaper per ton if the railway line is developed. We are looking forward to the development of the marketing company that Patrick alluded to. It would enable us to unlock major bottlenecks in the grains value chain. The major bottlenecks are structured markets, okay? Because of the way the grain market is structured markets in the Eastern African region are very, very few, okay? In spite of the fact that the grain actually is sold, but the region has been primed to pick up the grain raw as it is, because they know there is value in picking up raw grain and semi-processing it or warehousing it in your country. So the key bottleneck that would be overcome is structured markets. We know for a fact that the marketing company would enable us, and as a value chain, everybody in that value chain, right down to the farmer, stands to benefit as a result. Cost of power, unfortunately, we are being moderated by somebody from the power sector. Cost of power is a big thing. We recently had a summit of millers, and in that summit of millers, one of the key asks was that if millers come together in a locality, a localized milling hub, can't they constitute an investment park whereby they are given a single meter and taken on a much lower tariff than they otherwise are paid? But generally, to say power is a key challenge, and we look forward to every effort to lower that cost. Thank you so much, and we'll be happy to take it.